nuclear technology for peaceful purposes.
The notion that American military intelligence didn't know about it is just nonsense. They knew what was going on very well. It was a price they were prepared to pay.
In December of 1982, General Zia came to Washington, and as part of his visit, he had a lunch with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The only senator who was on time was Pell, his biggest critic. In the very first question, Pell handed him a letter about political prisoners. Benazir was the first name on the list, and he raised Benazir's case, described her conditions of imprisonment. Zia responded by saying, "Oh no, that's not right, Senator. She's now under house arrest, and she lives in a more comfortable house than any of your senators, and her friends can visit." So I decided I'd go there.
You know, our family home in Larkana, they declared it's a sub-jail, so it wasn't like you could come and go as you wished. So I was always going to Home Secretary's office and this one's office and that one's office, begging, can I go and see them? And then they would let you see them for 1 hour.
I arrived in Karachi, still not knowing if I was going to be able to see Benazir. And on the last day, I came into the consulate, and it turned out that at 2:30 that morning, Benazir had been taken out of house arrest.
She was released from prison only because she was in terrible physical shape. She was in danger of dying, and that's why Zia al-Haq let her out. I take it he didn't want to be held accountable for Morbuto blood, and she went to London.
I went to the airport, and there was a sea of people. We kind of like a whole herd. We went into this room which had been designated for her to give a press conference. As she began to talk, it was almost the words came out really very slowly to start with, and then suddenly it was kind of a surge of energy.
I asked her this afternoon if in the eyes of President Zia, she was now conveniently out of the way.
What do you mean having me out of the way? How am I out of the way?
Out of Pakistan.
Out of Pakistan, but surely when I was in Pakistan, I was under detention, and I remained acting chairman of the party. Of course, it was very difficult for me to have any communication with anybody, but I tried and I made an effort. I should think that being in a free country or being abroad and not under imprisonment, there is surely a greater degree of flexibility in contacting our party people. Our party, I don't understand what you mean that after my mother and I have left, we have not left Pakistan. We have not come out as political refugees or sought political asylum. We are Pakistanis and we'll go back to Pakistan. That's our homeland. That's where we live and that's where we'll die.
She had to restore her health in terms of leading, a more measured life. And there were some happy times for her.
The Bhutto family would go to the south of France on holiday.
Yeah, they were all there. The two brothers, their wives were there. Nusrat was there. Benazir was there. Sanam was there. And they had met that evening or that dinner they had had together. And later the next morning, they find Shah Nawaz dead. Apparently somebody had poisoned him.
He died in great pain over several hours, his sister-in-law doing nothing to come to his aid. It was a horrible experience for the family.
My heart was pounding. I didn't want to go inside. I looked, and he was lying on the carpet. His hand was outstretched, and he just looked like a sleeping animal. He looked so handsome. He said to me, he's dead. I said, no, try. He said, he's cold. He's dead for hours. And I shouted, you killed him, you killed him, you killed him.
Without a shadow of doubt, I feel that he was most cruelly, heartlessly murdered.
By who?
Well, we would like the French police to find out, but we think it took place within a political context.
Going back with his body, she saw the love and the devotion of the people, and she realized from that moment onwards she had to set in motion the next phase of her life, which was going back to resume an active career in politics.
My father had a vision of Pakistan as a democratic and progressive nation. My family is committed to his vision of Pakistan. We don't fear anything.
I said to her, you need to come to the United States. Persuade Americans that you're not a dangerous radical. She had a charm offensive.
Ambassador Peter Galbraith asked if we would have a small dinner party for a friend of his that was just getting out of prison. I said, oh, that's intriguing. That was really the first time I met her.
He had a sort of Washington salon, some members of Congress, a whole bunch of journalist friends, and she charmed everybody.
She was speaking quietly. Everyone would sort of lean forward because she was enrapturing.
She would say what she thought, and people would come out of meetings with her saying, my God, I can't believe that she said that. But it served her well because people began to trust her.
She also used her contacts in the Arab world. Libya, for instance, she had this ability to live in both worlds.
There was a groundswell of support that was building against the dictatorship. What was left of the civil society, what was left of the NGOs, all were banding together, demanding a reform.
Until the beginning of this year, General Zia outlawed all political opposition in Pakistan. But now, in a new political climate, the way may soon be clear to challenge him in an election. If that proves the case, then leading that challenge will be Benazir Bhutto.
I wanted to perform Umrah for my father. So this was something that I had wanted to. I didn't know whether I would live or die when I went back. And that's why I wanted to complete my intention.
She wasn't intimidated by generals, by dictators. She really thought she was on a holy mission to bring democracy back to the country.
In Pakistan, supporters of the opposition leader Benazir Bhutto are gathering to welcome her back, promising to overthrow the present leader, General Zia, and to test his claim that democracy has been restored.
I don't think that the regime can touch me, because I'm sure people will just burn down the airport.
She arrived in Pakistan, and suddenly there was a kind of electric shock that went through the body politic of the nation. And she really won the heart of millions of Pakistanis because she was seen as this young, almost frail girl taking on this brutal military dictator with all the authority and the power and the military backing him.
People who had been too scared or who hadn't felt like coming out when Bhutto was hanged came out for her. One of the banners they held up was, "Forgive us, Benazir. Forgive us for not having come out when your father was being hanged."
I think she determined early on that she would never have a personal life, that she would be a political leader, but she functionally wouldn't be a woman. She would never marry, she would never have children. But she came to realize that for her to function in a man's political environment in Pakistan, meetings with men, evenings alone, it was very important for her to be married. So in 1987, a marriage was arranged.
Asif Ali Zardari was a man of considerable personal charm.
He was a playboy. Who could blame him? He did not come from Pakistan's intelligentsia or Pakistan's political background. He came from a modest feudal background with roots in Karachi's urban capital.
We owned cinema halls, and our major business was importing foreign movies.
Hard to understand, but a hell of a man.
So I had the opportunity of watching a lot of movies and dreaming a lot.
She came to London and we met, and I said, "Well, what's he like?" And she said, "He's the only one who wanted to marry me."
She was gorgeous. She was the most populous woman in the world, and I guess I was quite taken up by her.
She was the last person in the world that we thought would be part of an arranged marriage. She was like one of the most independent people that we've ever met.
She was moving toward a position of power in Pakistan. She couldn't very well be seen gallivanting with Western men.
I sent her roses and her favorite chocolates, things I knew about her.
The initial engagement was in my apartment in London.
The whole family I take out for dinners every day. After 7 days, the mother and the other sister and the aunts, cousins, and all get together and tell her that say yes or no, because we can't keep doing this, so you have to make up your mind.
She was alone so much and she had been through jail, and I thought she needed pampering and she deserved a break, basically.
I remember her saying to me, my mother picked him, but I fell in love with him as though I had met him across a crowded room.
We had 500,000 people, huge affair, much beyond my imagination.
It was incredibly colourful, almost like something out of Arabian Nights.
It was a great time. All my family were there. My mother was thrilled that my sister was getting married. I think she was the happiest person in Pakistan.
Her wedding was almost like a Bollywood movie. It was not an elitist wedding. People would go in and eat and dance, and it was a wedding that actually turned into a campaign itself. So the campaign continued after the wedding as well.
She got the same sort of receptions everywhere, wherever she went. In Karachi, a bigger reception than in Pindi. She got equally impressive reception. And the crowd was so emotionally charged that she could have just asked them to take over and lynch Zia, but she didn't, because she believed that she has to restore the sanctity of vote over bullet.
But my party did not want bloodshed. My party does not want violence, and we again repeated that hear the call of the people and give us a date for immediate election.
Benazir Bhutto today challenged you before leaving Karachi to an election showdown. Could you please give us your reaction?
Chivalry forbids me to challenge a lady.
She was expecting, and Zia thought now she's married and she can't do it. He didn't know that my sister's a very determined person.
I travelled with her a lot during the elections, and she was pregnant, during some of the campaign. And she cleverly had fooled General Zia because she knew they would get her medical records and find out when the baby was due and time the election exactly for that, so she wouldn't be able to